Time to upgrade. Check it out. Hey, what's going on, everyone? For those returning, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, welcome to this special weekend episode of Danny's Custom Builds. This channel centers around tech reviews, how-to videos, and occasionally a full PC build. I'm Danny, and today is sort of a two-part episode where I'm going to be upgrading my current rig with Intel's newest 10th generation of processor and a Z490 series motherboard. First thing I want to show is the processor that I'm choosing. This is the i7 10700K. It's an 8-core, 16-thread processor. It has a base frequency of 3.8 gigahertz. There's a turbo boost frequency of 5.1 gigahertz with an all-core boost of 4.9. It has 16 megabytes of smart cache, 125 watt TDP, and requires an LGA 1200 socket. All Intel's processors now come with hyperthreading, which is a huge bonus over last generation of processors, the 9th series. And this is essentially a 9900K, a little more upgraded. It's got a few changes to it. The motherboard that I decided to go with is the MSI Z490 ACE. It's a pretty hefty motherboard, very heavy. It's a LGA 1200 socket, a Z490 chipset. It has 4 DIMM slots, can handle DDR4 memory up to 4800 megahertz overclock. It has a 16+1 phase power delivery with a 90 amp smart power stage. There's dual 8-pin CPU power connectors, 3 Frozr M.2 heat sinks. The MOSFET has a 30mm fan for active cooling. The motherboard comes with Wi-Fi 6 and a 2.5 gig LAN Ethernet connection. It comes with MSI's light-controlled RGB software, and it has support for Lightning Gen 4 in the future. Now for the specs of my current setup. Currently, I have a i7 8700K in a Z390 series motherboard made by MSI as well. It is the MSI Z390 ACE, to be specific. I actually chose that setup because I was going to do a 9900K into the 390 motherboard. They never dropped in price, so I never upgraded the processor. Luckily, 10th gen just came out. It kind of gives me a reason to upgrade. The computer currently has 32 gigabytes of DDR4 G.Skill memory at 3200 megahertz. There's a Samsung 970 EVO 500 gig for the operating system, a 1 terabyte Samsung 860 EVO for the games and storage, and then I have a 2 terabyte Western Digital Blue for pictures, videos, what have you. Graphics is a EVGA RTX 2080 Ti, the OC gaming model. Power is a Corsair RM650, the yellow label. And for cooling, I'm using a Corsair H115i 280mm AIO. I have it front mounted currently. You can kind of see, this thing is very heavy. Kind of see it. It doesn't fit on the top of this case. This is the Fractal Design Meshify C. The 240mm would have fit up here, but the 280 does not. It runs into the VRMs on the motherboard, so I was unable to top mount and front mount it instead. It actually didn't change the thermals much compared to a lot of videos I've seen where people do comparison testing between front and top mounted radiators. It works for me, and I enjoy having liquid cooling on my processors. Okay, so I'm extremely excited. Enough of the tech specs. Let's get into this swap. Workload performance increased by quite a bit over the 8700K across the board, and temperatures didn't change at all. With some fine tuning, I may even be able to bring these down. All gaming benchmarks were performed at 1080p to create a CPU bottleneck and take the GPU out of the equation. I usually game at 1440p or 4K, however, at those resolutions both CPUs produce the same frame rates since the bottleneck is the graphics card at that point. Well, there you have it. Everything's all upgraded. The computer looks great. It runs amazing. It's exactly what I wanted it for. The increase on the productivity side was a nice little bump, and it actually turned out to be a little bit better in games too because of the increased core clocks over my 8700K. I got a bunch of extra features like Wi-Fi 6 that I don't even have a router for yet, so I'll be ready for that when it comes time. As I said at the beginning of the video, I was going to let you know why I chose Intel over AMD. My main reason is that the rig was already set up for Intel, and I really didn't want to convert too much. I mean, my CPU cooler was an Intel block for it. I didn't have to swap that out. Another reason is that AMD's motherboards right now, the X570 ones for their high-end boards, are actually either not available or really overpriced. That just really drove my decision to go with Intel again. And finally, a lot of times, I've done a lot of AMD builds and a lot of Intel builds, and AMD for some reason always gives me trouble with RAM, drivers, compatibility issues, and I just didn't want to deal with any of that. I have been using Intel and it's been tried and true for me. Not that I don't like AMD, I have other AMD systems. This is just our main computer, so I decided to go with Intel for it. If you're in the market for a new PC or want to upgrade your build like I did, I hope I gave you some information about Intel's latest offering, the 10th generation of processors, and the Z490 series of motherboards. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you'll know when the next video comes out. And as always, I'll see you then.